Writer's Dream. This is a show where we have authors who come to talk about their books, how they publish them, how they write them, and how they market them. Today's show is a little bit different. We have two guests today, and we're going to talk about the Long Island Authors Group, which is an organization that is designed to help authors talk to one another, share information, promote their books. We have the founder, John Cardone, who was the first president, and we have the present president, who is a repeat guest, Kerriann Flanagan Brosky. Welcome.
Nice to be here.
Good to have you here.
Nice to be here.
So tell us about Long Island Authors Group. How did this all get started?
Well, it's an interesting history. Back in 2007, I had just finished publishing my second book, and I was looking for innovative ways to promote and get my books out to the public. So when you're working, trying to promote your book, you don't really have much support. And what can you do? How can you do things? So there was a trip that my wife and I had taken out east, and we do a lot of bicycling. And we passed by the Martha Clara Vineyard, and they had a road sign that indicated they had a Beatles art show. Mm-hmm. And we thought how much fun that would be to relive the Beatles. You wouldn't think the Beatles would have anything to do with an authors group, but it actually was the beginning of it. Because inside the pavilion, they had all these paraphernalia, art exhibits, and we were thinking, my wife and I were thinking about how interesting it would be to have a book fair at such a venue, and that's actually how it all started. And
you started just, what did you do? Contact the authors, the other authors you knew?
Well,
get a group together?
Yes, I had to, of course, secure the venue. Once Martha Clara, the coordinator there, agreed to have a book fair with us, we had to then contact authors. And what I was doing was looking in bookstores, doing Google searches, looking at various websites to try to find local Long Island authors. And little by little, I accumulated a certain number of authors that I thought would be attractive to the public. And of course, Kerriann was one of the first to agree to participate.
Well, I've had a similar experience in that I did this in the spring with Scarcella's Nursery in Nassau County on 25A, and it's a lot of work to do this.
It is.
And speaking of the Beatles, we actually have an author that we have on the show. He's part of the crew here. He does a fundraiser where he has a group who are like the Beatles. They do Beatles music, and they kind of look like them, and they do live music, and they do his fundraisers. So the Beatles still are an attraction. We should think about that. So the first event was Martha Clara. Where did it go from there? How did you develop this into an organization?
Well, when we held the event, and that was back, I have this poster here, that was back in March 9th of 2008.
You were very small then.
we were only 16 authors. Yeah. Wow. So this was a very successful event because the authors sold lots of books. We had about 400, 500 people attend the event throughout the 5 hours. And we were very excited as a group because there was always a question, was this going to be successful? Mm-hmm. There was no official organization. We were just a group of Long Island authors who were looking to work together to be able to accomplish more with the media and with different events. So right after the book fair, there was a lot of buzz among us. What could we do? How can we, what is our next steps? What's next? And that's actually, we had a series of phone calls and emails and conversations about how this group could work together. There was no plan to make something happen. But little by little, with the involvement of individuals like Kerriann, Robert Mueller, David Axelrod, John Ross, these were all authors who are among the participants. Mm-hmm. And they were the core. We were the core that got us going. We decided on a board, and then we decided on meetings and what events we could hold, and that's actually how it started in 2008.
Now, did you have to write up a proposal and get a tax number and do all of those, and then have bylaws? So that
that sort of evolved. It wasn't right away, but over the past couple of years, that's what we've really been focusing on, and having term limits and getting involved with, certain community activities. So you could see how it's evolved. But in the beginning, I mean, it was really grassroots. And like John said, we would just get together, all right, what should we do? But now we have those meetings. We have meetings 3 times a year, and we also offer general membership meetings where the group could find out what we're doing, meet the board, ask us questions, that type of thing.
I think the fact that your first event was successful is what breeds success. One success excites people.
And it's still, Martha Clara is still our
Yes.
biggest
Yeah,
event.
we have an annual event there. It's become an annual event, and we still draw a very good crowd. The authors have grown. We've grown from the original 16 to over 50 members now, and we continue to attract attention from the media and various organizations.
How do you get media coverage?
Well, that's an interesting question. It's, there's the typical avenues that any organization uses, and that's the press release. Today with social media and the internet, there's more involvement. We have much more. We actually have a committee who
Yeah, we had to develop that last year,
goes
committee.
into that area.
Yeah, because it's too much work. I mean, of course, we ask the authors to do their own marketing for it as well on their own websites and social, media. But we needed to form that committee to really get press releases out and focus on it. So, I mean, we had a lot of press at the last one. We were also giving away a free Kindle at our event, which really, was good. It's a way to give back to the community, encourage reading. So that was something that was good we could put in the press release.
One of the benefits of working together, which has really been from the very beginning, is that by working together, we can do more. For example, if an author has 2 or 3 media contacts and another author has 2 or 3 media contacts,
That's exactly
and a
it.
third and a fourth, then you see that we start to get 10, 12 media contacts. So as a group, we're able to do much more than any individual author can do.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I also noticed that you're now connected with the Fair Media Council.
Yes, great
And
organization.
how does that organization help
It-
members?
It teaches the authors about how to deal with the media, how to do social networking. So we got involved with them last year, and we had our first workshop in the spring. We're going to have another one. We're supposed to have one in the fall, but with the storm, it was difficult, so we rescheduled it. But it's a way to teach the authors how to get involved with the press, because a lot of people just don't have that background in marketing, and it's a tough thing. People think, well, you write a book and it's out, but marketing is full time, and you have to be on top of it. So there's different workshops that they give and teach the authors. It's wonderful.
Well, I know that many of the authors in the organization, because I've got to meet so many of them, the bugaboos are the social media, because it's something new and it's something that changes so rapidly that it becomes difficult to try to keep up with it. For instance, Twitter. I've been told by a number of guests on my show that Twitter is the way to go. You have to, get a Twitter following. And my feeling is that, it's another thing to do. But then I did get the idea that wouldn't it be nice to get a group of authors together, much as the way you started the organization, and sit down and just all of us set up a Twitter account and then tweet to each other, get each other to follow each other, and then find other people to follow, and start it that way. In that, again, it's that group thing where there's strength in the group.
And that's why we decided this past year, part of our PR committee decided to do a Facebook page. I actually, for my own personal, books, I find that Facebook seems to work better than Twitter for me. But, I mean, there's so many different avenues you can go with this. It's just a matter of getting out there.
Well, I like Facebook simply because you can post anything on it, and you can post things that people can see, as opposed to making a short comment.
Right, right.
That you send out to a number of people, and who knows if they're going to answer you, but with your Facebook page, you have control over what's seen on that page.
Exactly.
And LinkedIn, too, is also
Yeah, I love
effective.
LinkedIn. I think that works. A lot of our authors are on that as well, but
Yeah.
for the authors group, we do specifically have a Long Island Authors Group Facebook page where people can post, their events and upcoming things. Like we'll put that we were on the show with you. We'll go on there, and it helps. Every bit helps.
Yes, I like the idea of when you have a Martha Clara event that you ask everyone to send out, because most of us have either an extensive email list, or we have constant contact.
Right.
And I know I find that very helpful. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to mention constant contact, but I just did.
Well, that's another example of a group working together, is that if an author, for example, has, just as an example, 10 people on an email list, then they're going to be at a bookstore, they could invite 10 people. But if you have 10 authors, each one with 10 email contacts, you're talking about 100 people now.
Yes.
So this is really the value you can see of working together as a group to promote our events.
Yes, you had an event at the book review, as have other authors, and that networking of author to author.
It definitely helps, because writing is so reclusive, and I find that, it's hard to find people in your field that are like-minded. So this is a means of not only, getting the word out there on the books, but there's also a social aspect to it. We have our first Wednesdays where we meet at the Bonwit Inn in Comac, and it's a casual dinner, great food, and we have a speaker every month. We just had our holiday party, and it's a way that the authors can get to know one another. And then, all right, this one's a children's author, it's sitting next to another children's author. Oh, are you involved with this, or do you know this person? And people get to talk and figure out, well, what publisher did you use? Do you have an agent? And the word gets out, and people form a camaraderie, and I think that that's an important aspect of the group as well.
Well,
Writing is a lone type of thing.
Yes.
You work
solitary.
Very solitary. So authors generally like to be lone wolves. One of the things I like to say is this group, the authors group, gives them a chance to run with a pack.
Yes,
That's exactly
very true. You have a mission statement?
Well, we do have a mission statement, and the formal mission statement can be found on the group's website. But basically, the concept behind the authors group, the Long Island Authors Group, is to promote and encourage authorship. And this is on Long Island, the Nassau, Suffolk counties of Long Island.
Okay, so, and how does one become a member of Long Island Authors Group?
Well, there's on the website, there's a Join Us task, on the taskbar, there's a Join Us page, and instructions are given. But basically, we have criteria that we've set up to establish a professional approach to our writing and the publishing of our books. And then there's an application, and the books are reviewed by a committee, a membership committee. Once a person is accepted, they're notified. And then the authors have to send in their documents, which include photos, the author photos, as well as summaries of their books and bios.
And the book covers, too.
And the book covers, so they can be added to our website.
And
so there is a process. It's definitely
and it is a long one.
It
takes 2 to 4 months for the process to be complete.
Because the books have to be read, and
Sure.
we have to have that criteria. I mean, generally we tell people the book should be professionally edited, proper formatting, that type of thing, because we have our authors run the gamut from commercial to small press to self-published.
Right.
So, but we have to, for the sake of everyone, the quality has to be there.
And what you were saying before about the fact that we're sitting next to one another at dinner and we're talking about our books, and if you find someone who has a like genre, you ask them, well, what organization do you belong to? That is extremely helpful, because knowing what other organizations ask for and what they offer as far as marketing is so important. And every organization seems to have a different little niche for marketing. So I have found that myself with, I never thought of myself as a children's writer. And now actually I'm a member of another organization of children's writers,
That's how it happens.
Ligwe.
Yeah.
And having gone to a couple of their events and their fairs, I see that I am an advanced elementary reader. Young adult kind of, moves into that genre. So that's a whole new field for me.
Right.
So that makes it extremely helpful. Tell me about the board. Tell me about your officers, what they do, what the board members do, what are the different jobs that you consider important?
We have the president as a 2-year term, and then we have a vice president, a secretary, and treasurer. That would be the executive board. And then we have trustees, and we try to rotate them now every, 3 years, 4 years. And, people have different jobs within the board. We meet 3 times a year, and then we have a general membership meeting, as I had mentioned earlier, where the whole membership gets together and they could ask us questions and see where it's going. But it's a hands-on board. It's a working board. That's
Yes.
for sure.
It's a very important aspect of an organization, because basically the board is the management of the organization. And I have to tell you that they're all so creative. We come up with very interesting approaches to events and to doing various activities, and it all comes from ideas. An idea is born, and writers tend to be creative.
Right.
So imagine a table full of creative people, and it's actually it's wonderful.
Yes, I get that feeling. It's a warm organization, and then people are very willing to be giving of themselves, which I think is important. Tell me about your website. Even in the short time that I belong to this organization, your website has changed and grown.
Yes,
so could you tell us about
changing.
the new
we
features?
have, everyone's photos are on the website. They have their own author page where it explains about the books, where they can be purchased. We have a photo section. We have some videos on there now. We have the mission statement, as John had mentioned.
Don't forget the
the
bookstore.
application. The bookstore, that's right.
Bookstore is a
We
very
have a
interesting
forum now.
idea
tell me about that.
came about at one of our board meetings. The idea would be that because people are shopping on the web now, why not have a bookstore that features the works of the members of the Long Island Authors Group? So people can enter search strings, basically. They can enter what genre they're interested in. So if they're interested in poetry, they could click on poetry, and up comes the authors in our group who have books about poetry, and so forth and so on. It's actually a very neat way for us to get our books into the public's hands.
This is very clever. What about the forum?
Yeah, that's new. We started that in the fall. It's a means that for the authors to be able to speak with one another, similar to what you do on the LinkedIn groups, that type of thing. But this is only for the authors in our group. So we have different topics, and they could converse back and forth via email and text.
It connects us in a way that is comfortable. That we can enter a topic, and then the manager of the forum will create a string, and then we could respond as authors to those various questions that are posed. So it connects us in an interesting way.
I think so too. And authors can actually advertise their events on the forum, solicit help for various problems. Do you have any issues with getting people to volunteer for various jobs?
I think sometimes it's like any organization. You have the worker bees, and then you have people that don't get as involved, which is fine. I mean, we have a good balance of that, but we do have a lot more members coming in that want to work, that want to do things. We have a great newsletter now. We have the forum, we have the bookstore.
That's right, the newsletter.
Yeah, and we offered some workshops, not only the Fair Media, but we've been giving some workshops as well. We had a group of us, 6 of us, do workshops for the Heckscher Museum on writing.
Right.
Writing nonfiction, writing fiction, different things. So we're really trying to, spread out and spread our wings a bit and show what else we're capable of doing.
Yeah, I was speaking to Lois Stern, who was in
she was
charge
very
of that.
involved. Yeah, she did a
the
wonderful
Heckscher
job.
thing, and she wants to expand it to
Yeah.
go. And I think that's a really good idea, because I think libraries, all the libraries that I've ever contacted, have a writers group. And I think writers groups are very, because when you go to the writers groups, the people in the groups are of varying degrees of how shall I say, professional involvement. Some of them are starting writing, and others have already published. But I think all of these workshops that talk about the various aspects of writing, publishing, and marketing, as does this show, I think this is extremely helpful. And I like the idea. Since I've joined your group, I find that I'm networking out in different directions.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And
It opens up.
when I first started to market my book, I went to marketing groups. And of course, the marketing groups are all basically business people. I was there with the real estate agents, the plumbers, the electricians, and the construction people. And there I was, I was the only author in the group. And there were some people who would do fundraising, and I expressed that I would be happy to do a workshop or a presentation at fundraising. And sometimes that worked out, but there were no organizations that I found at that time that were directly involved in promoting a book. And now, I found Long Island Authors Group. So that was...
It's also interesting working with each other, because, for example, I'm working on a book project now that is nonfiction, and it's a collection of photographs, picture book. And my other previous works were in the fiction. So having never done one before, I was a little lost and somewhat floundering about how to assemble a picture book. And within our group are photographers who have picture books.
Yes, Gloria Golden.
So Gloria Golden. So I was able to talk with her, and we chat, email, and we have kind of a little friendship. Within the group, we have these opportunities for authors to connect with other authors.
It's a huge benefit, it really is.
Yeah, well, I find that authors in general tend to be people who want to share their ideas.
Yes.
You write to share,
Right.
so it kind of becomes your philosophy. What are the most significant changes that have occurred in the organization that you see? From being founder, you've been here since the get-go.
Sure.
What year was that?
Well, the beginning was 2007, but our organization started in 2008. There were months of planning for the very first event, and I started in 2007. But the first event was in March 2008.
So you're actually a very young organization.
Yes, that's right.
And I mean, just even as I said before, since I've been there have been significant changes.
I think the changes have come about by the board members who have volunteered, by the way, their time to expand the organization. And the areas that we've expanded with, we've already mentioned some of them. We have ways now with our forum for communications. And we have the First Wednesday program, so authors can come out and meet each other and talk, and it's a very important part of a group. And then I guess the changes with we are more established with the Public Relations Committee to work towards that direction. And we also have now more than ever community involvement with the writing program. We're also conducting a writing essay contest for high school students. It's not off the ground yet, but we hope that it will be.
That's a wonderful idea, both for the person who wins the contest and for the organization. Because
we need to promote writing. You know, we're authors.
Yes, not only that, but
reading.
it's always good for an organization to have some kind of give back to the community, not always asking, you know, buy my books.
That's exactly
Let me give back to the community in some way. So I think that's also very important. I'm going to ask you a question, and probably, I don't know if the answer will come to you right away, but between the two of you, what's your favorite story about the organization? Funny, sad.
I don't think any of them are sad.
Best story,
Funniest story.
most interesting.
That's a tough one.
That's a very interesting one.
I mean, we do have fun together.
Yeah, there's a lot of laughing that goes on, but
I don't know if I could pinpoint anyone.
Well, I don't think there are any sad moments. As a group, we're young as a group and haven't really experienced a lot of sadness. But in terms of funny and happy things, I think when we go to the events that we are there, we have tables set up, we have our promotional literature and books on display, and people circulate. And one of the funniest things that I always say about the winery events is that as the day goes on, the noise in the venue increases, as does the book sales. And I never know if it's because of the excitement of the moment or the wine that's available.
I
Well,
noticed
actually,
that
we
too.
did have, this brings to mind, we did have, and I won't mention where it was, but we did have a very small event. And the weather was really bad. It was at a smaller vineyard. And the weather was extremely bad. And you know, sometimes it happens. We didn't get people to come to the event. So, but we didn't want to leave. We wanted to, you know, stick with it and see. You never know. And we promised people we would be there. But we sort of made our own fun after that. We were taking pictures of one another. We were drinking wine, you know, so it became sort of a party amongst the authors because, you know, you have to take a bad situation sometimes to make it fun. So we do have fun. Even at the board, when we do our board meetings, we always have food and wine and everything. And so we try to have fun with it.
Good.
One of the fun things that we do as a group are the venues. And we've had some very interesting venues. Well, we started at Martha Clara because the wineries in wine country have drawn a lot of attention. And on any given weekend, they're crowded facilities. But we also wanted to be in other places, including Nassau County. So one of the things that we did was we reached out to the Cradle of Aviation Museum. So while people are touring the museum, authors from our group will have an event, a book fair.
That's how I found you.
It's a very interesting,
Is that
it's a
how?
very interesting
Yeah.
venue.
We've had planting fields as
and
well.
planting fields in
over,
Oyster Bay, that while people are hiking and getting to know the plants and the trees of our area, they can get to meet authors
That's exactly
in the community room there.
And we try to have, now we have a lot of authors in Nassau County, so we want to have events in Suffolk and in Nassau County, so
We've
it's
also-
always evolving.
We've also been in Port Jefferson at the community
yes.
center.
At
The
Port
harbor
Jeff.
area is lovely.
It is
And in the summer, they draw a very nice crowd into that area.
And Northport.
So, and we've been in Northport as
Right.
well.
And I'm attempting to get you into Bayard Cutting Arboretum.
Yeah, that would be a
I
good
did their
space.
full festival, and it was really, it was a good event, and it was a fun event. So
It's nice.
we have a few more minutes. Would you like to give us an idea of your vision of where you would like this to go? And along with your vision, do you think in general you've been successful?
Well,
I think so.
I think that, from the point of view of the founder of the organization, it really warms my heart when I think about that the idea, of a Beatles exhibit led to a group of authors collectively working together. And it's very rewarding to know that I started this organization. And then to have people like Kerriann and Phil Keith and David Axelrod and a few other of the leaders of the group, how they've made things change and evolved over these years that we've been in a group. And where we're going, one only knows.
Right, I know, we wonder that ourselves.
One only knows. We see the membership increasing.
Yes.
We see our publicity committee working and getting our name out. And there are more and more emails coming in from people just wanting to know who we are and what we're
Right.
about. So we know that we're on the right track.
Well, I think this is also because of the explosion of self-publishing. Because in self-publishing, you have to self-promote, and so this is a way to promote. And but I think you should be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, actually,
The
it's,
other thing too is that it's, the word has gotten out, so we've had other organizations, schools and things say, oh, I heard about this group, I need a speaker, I need someone to give a lecture. So, then that
that's
helps the
great.
individual author too.
Oh, sure, and also, most writers have writers' groups, and they're very small, self-contained groups, and now, if you can join an organization like this, it's so much more global.
Yes.
Well, we've run out of time, and it's been very interesting, John.
Nice
Great
meeting
to
you.
have you.
Great to,
And Kerriann, great to
be
have
on
you
with
too.
for
Thank
letting
you.
us come up.
And go Long Island Authors Group.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what do you think of Bayard Cutting?
As a venue?
Yeah.
Well, I think
Because
it's
you've
beautiful. I
been
happen
there,
to
right?
spend a lot of time at Bayard
So
Cutting. It's
it's,
close to my home.
That would be a good
So
spot,
it'd
actually.
be very nice.
I have a date with them.